Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 517.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because what it comes down to is that you and I, we're out there each and every day, every night, maybe even all night, looking to do our best to build our business, build our cash flow, make our teams bigger, better, badder, stronger. And we are doing the best we can with the resources that we have at the moment. This calls into question something that is absolutely necessary, regardless of your business structure, whether you are sole proprietor, C Corp, S Corp, or you're just leading a team of one and you're the only one on it, or you've got teams of tens, hundreds, or thousands, you must, that means it's not optional, become a bigger, better, badder leader. It's just got to happen. And you can't just lead when things are good. In fact, you can even say that leadership is tested when things are not so rosy. I have with me today a guest who has the street credibility to prove that, hey, leading in good times as well through the bad is 100% possible. I have with me none other than James Arthur Ray, and he is considered one of the world's foremost leadership and performance advisors, coaches, and consultants. Now, if you're like me, you were introduced to him during the documentary The Secret. Or maybe you read his book, Harmonic Wealth. Or you already know, and they're eagerly anticipating his new book, Redemption, The Price of Leadership in Both Life and Business. But today, I want you to hear the leader, James Arthur Ray, because you may not be familiar with the fact that he was consulting C-level executives, went to the AT&T School of Business. We have an individual here with us today who has the ability to lead through ups and downs. And when I say downs, if you were $20 million in debt, now I know some of you're thinking 20,000 sounds like a lot, but if you were $20 million in debt and had no place to stay, i.e. homeless, would you feel like a leader? Would you feel like getting back up and making it happen? And well, James Arthur Ray is here today to say that not only is he still standing, but he's still leading, and he's going to help you and I do the same. Now, let's get ready to listen, learn, and love James Arthur Ray. James, how you doing?
Jay, speaking of love, I'm in love with your energy in that intro, man. Holy crap. I've done a lot of interviews, but yeah, that was good.
I appreciate that.
I hope I can live up to that, but thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm just reading what you've done. You've already done these things. We haven't even talked about the future stuff you're up to yet. Right now, we're just talking about here's who you are. This is what you've accomplished. And I think there's a number of entrepreneurs who are eagerly awaiting to hear the rest of this particular story. So I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. Now,
well, it's my pleasure. And I hope they're eager to hear because, the fact is we live in very disruptive times, and that's not news to any of your listeners, I'm sure. Just a couple of quick statistics that I'm sure you're familiar with, Jay, and many of your listeners as well, is Forbes is telling us that 50% of the payroll jobs are going to be going away in the next 10 years or less. AIs are on the rise. And the fact is, if you're not doing something unique, if you're not accessing your full human potential, there's not going to be a lot of need for paper pushers and soldiers going forward in the future because, frankly, AIs can do it better, faster. They don't complain. They don't ask for days off. They don't ask for raises. They don't need weekends or vacations. They just get the job done. So, yeah, there's going to have to be some people to manage those AIs and make sure and fix them when they break. But leadership is going to be more and more necessary and required. And I have a whole different perspective on what leadership means than the vast majority in my experience. A lot of people think leadership is a title or position. I say wrong. That's only positional power. And positional power only works when you can propagate fear. Hey, if you don't do this, you're going to lose your job. Well, when fear goes away, then positional power goes away as well. And so a lot of people also think that leadership is the number of followers you have, particularly in today's social media market. Well, if that's true, then that would mean that Justin Bieber is one of the greatest leaders on our planet. And with all respect, he is talented. Leadership, nah, I'm not so sure. A lot of people think it's about getting the popular vote or getting everyone to agree with you. And I'm going to suggest to you that leadership is first and foremost leading your own life. It's about self-awareness. And ironically, Jay, well, maybe not so ironically for you and your listeners, but for most people, I'm going to contend that self-awareness is the number one necessity, not only of leadership, but of entrepreneurship in today's world, because very few people have a high degree of self-awareness. When you're highly self-aware, you know what your gifts are, you know why you're here, you have clearly defined your purpose and how to use your gifts to fulfill that purpose and make an impact in the world. And when you get that kind of clarity, even when you're $20 million in debt, at some point, Jay, it just doesn't matter. Once you hit about 10 million, it's like, okay, make it 40. I mean, what difference does it make? I mean, I'm underwater big time. Broke to me, and maybe some of your listeners, with all respect, I feel your pain. I do. But from where I sat 5 years ago, broke looked pretty damn good, and yet, going back to what I was saying, when you have absolute clarity on your self-awareness, your gifts, what I call your unique genius, your purpose, your calling in this lifetime, you just don't quit. You keep moving forward.
Love it. I can tell already that we are going to have so much to talk about, which is I'm overly excited already. So this is good. This is good. Now, this is your first time here on the show, and because of that, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else the first time that they're here. You ready?
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, like Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, etc. And I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a lot of things in common. For example, as an entrepreneur, occasionally I can envision myself flying around town, using our products and services, and saving our customers one sale at a time. And yes, probably at that moment, I'm wearing a cape. Also, like a superhero, though, an entrepreneur has a beginning. For example, let's talk about Spider-Man. There was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos, trying to make some extra money to take Mary Jane out on a date. That's it. Then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers I have a special superhuman ability. And he now is presented with a choice to use it for good or for evil. So my question to you is as follows. Before everything that you've done at, consulting with C-level executives, before being on the Inc. 500, before, Harmonic Wealth, before Redemption, before your books, before all of your experiences in business, before, Larry King, Piers Morgan, Today Show, all that stuff that people know you for today, what we want to know is, who is James Arthur Ray?
Well, it's an interesting question, and you and I are cut from the same cloth because I've been on record many times stating that I am the dark knight of leadership and performance. So I'll let that hang out there for a minute. I was not Bruce Wayne, though. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up with any silver spoon or loads of money or mansion. But I was that introverted, skinny, scrawny, buck-toothed, thick glasses kid who got bullied in school all the time. And I was so shy and so insecure that I went off on this search. My father was a Protestant minister, and I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right down the street from Oral Roberts University, right in the middle of the buckle of the Bible Belt, right?
Yeah.
And so, I had this very dynamic father, and he was a rock and roll kind of preacher, very, very dynamic speaker, very magnetic. And I was this shy, introverted, never good enough kid. And so it was tough for me. And so at about 18 years of age, in the household of a Protestant minister down the street from Oral Roberts University in the buckle of the Bible Belt, I picked up a Buddhist Bible, which kind of tells you that I was strange. And but I wasn't getting
trying to figure out how
answer.
you even found one.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. But nonetheless, I did, and so I just wasn't getting the answers that I was asking continuously because I was very inquisitive. And so I thought I'd go off and search and figure some things out. And I thought if I could figure out how this universe works, that maybe I could ease my own suffering and my own pain. And so that sent me on this hunger and quest to understand how things work from the time I was literally 18 years of age. And I've studied everything from, I was a consultant for AT&T School of Business, as you mentioned. So I've studied business. I've had business mentors. I was great in sales for AT&T for a number of years. I studied behavioral sciences in school to figure out how people's minds work. But I also have studied philosophy, psychology, biology, even quantum physics, and all the spiritual traditions on the planet. Pretty much, I've been exposed to as well. And so I started to look at how to synthesize and find the common thread through all of these things that seem so diverse, and how to apply them in a practical way. And that inquisitive nature and that hunger for knowledge and understanding has taken me so many places, Jay. I mean, I've done a lot in business. I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to AT&T for giving me those practical business chops, if you will. But I've also, studied with a shaman in the Andes Mountains. Of Peru. I hiked to the one of the highest summits called Salcantay at about 17,000 feet with him on this quest. And I've been to the Amazon and studied with the ayahuasqueros, and I've been exposed to a wide diversity of teachings. And so I'm sure you're aware, back in 2009, Fortune magazine wrote a full feature article on me, and they basically said that I had this unique ability to synthesize, practicality as well as spirituality, business and philosophy and life and all these things into a format so that we could really live. And here we come back to leadership. How are we going to lead our lives, first and foremost? And then secondarily, how are we going to lead our businesses? Because I don't believe there should be a dividing line between life and business. I take issue with this whole idea of, quote, life balance, because even the people who preach it and talk about it aren't balanced. I'm sorry. Let's face it, Robert Herjavec says, if you want to be balanced, don't start a business. And so
No, hold on for one quick second. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page, because when everybody's got possibly a different interpretation of the word balance. Can you expand? I think I know what you're saying, but can you expound upon the concept of balance as the way you're talking about it right now?
Yeah, I'd love to, because, and this goes right back to my last New York Times bestseller, Harmonic Wealth.
That's what I thought.
Where
I was like,
yeah,
this is Harmonic Wealth coming out right now.
Yeah, it is. And my objective in Harmonic Wealth, I don't think I've achieved it, but I always have these big objectives, big ideas. I want to positively impact at a minimum of 1 billion people on the planet. So my way of thinking is, if you're going to go for something, go big, or just don't even bother. And so my big objective for Harmonic Wealth was to redefine wealth. Now, if you ask 99% of the people what wealth means, they're instantly going to answer money. But the fact is, if you study the etymology or the origins of the word wealth, trace it back, it literally translates as well-being. It doesn't translate as money. And I interact and coach 6, 7, 8-figure income earners who have a lot of money, but they don't have very much well-being. In fact, the fact is, according to statistics, is that about 45% of the people in America right now, when surveyed, say they are too exhausted to perform in their daily job. Let me give you some more. Every 40 seconds, someone in our world commits suicide, 3,000 people per day. It gets worse. For everyone who's, quote, successful, 20 attempt and they're not successful. So 115 people die every single day from opioid overdose, pain meds right now. I could go on. I mean, we're in a disruptive world, not only technologically disruptive, but psychologically. And so well-being is the objective, and then back to balance. And the reason I went to wealth, because it's harmonic wealth, I make a differentiation between harmony and balance.
Yes.
Let me give you an example, Jay.
Yes.
Imagine with me for a moment, just visualize that you've got one of these old-time scales with 2 plates on each side. They're connected at a center point with a chain.
Got it.
You got that? All right. Now visualize that scale in perfect balance.
Got it.
And let me ask you, what's happening?
At that moment, nothing.
Exactly. So here's the point. In perfect balance, nothing happens. In perfect balance, nothing happens, and no one is in perfect balance. I believe this whole concept of life balance is one of the greatest causes of pain and suffering and angst and anguish for the entrepreneur in today's world, because he or she is thinking, well, if I spend 12 hours at building my business, that means I have to spend 12 hours with my kids. Well, no, that's not true. You don't have to spend 12 hours in the gym either to be in great shape. Thank God,
Right.
what, even though I go to the gym every day, but nonetheless, you've got to be able to put attention to each of what I call the 5 pillars of your life to be successful in entrepreneurship. And those are financial, relational, mental, physical, spiritual. And all of those 5, when they're in harmony, see, there's going to be times when finances are tight. Let's face it. I'm sure you've been there, Jay. There's been many times when I was on Vision sandwiches and Faith cookies.
Yes. Oh, so well said. Yes, and many of the audience, they've heard my story, but you may not be familiar. We started our career squatting in bank-owned property. My wife was unable to eat or drink. I could not walk and talk simultaneously without fainting. And that's what led us into real estate and business. Believe it or not. So, yeah. Hey guys, thanks for listening as always, and I'm glad that you continue to support with each and every download and subscription and share. One of the things that I want to ask you, though, is where are you listening to me from right now? I know some of you, maybe you're on a treadmill, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're walking that dog, and some of you are actually in a vehicle driving right now. One of the fun things that you can do, get some of your time back, is begin to living a car-free existence. But even then, it can be a little complicated. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to go over to Zipcar. Go to joinzipcar.com/CashFlowDiary. It's a way that I am able to still go get a car just for a few hours, very, very simply, so that if I have a lot of errands to run and sheets to drop off and running to the short-term rentals, or if I just want to go for a long trip up to LA and back, etc., I can rent a car for a very, very short period of time. And the cool part is I don't even have to pay for any gas. Again, go to joinzipcar.com/CashFlowDiary.
Yeah, I mean, we've all played entrepreneurial solitaire. That's where you take all the credit cards in your wallet and you throw them out on the bed and try to figure out which one has a balance left on it. And you know, that's where if you're shooting for balance, you're going to feel really, depressed. Maybe you're going to feel guilty. But the fact is, you got to sit down with your family and go, look, things are tight right now. And for the next, 90 days, dad or mom or both have to hustle. So We're not going to be taking any big family vacations, or we're not going to, be going to the beach a lot. And the key to all that, and that's harmony. The key is that you don't totally neglect. Hey, we'll have dinner and we'll make sure the TV's off and we'll talk. We'll connect, for at least 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, and then we may have to go back at it again. All of us have had dinner and gone back at it till the wee hours, at least once, if not more times than we can count. And so, that's a long answer to your whole question about balance. Is that balance as it's perceived is not achievable. Harmony is like a jazz quartet, and I'm a big jazz fan. If you listen to a jazz trio or quartet, sometimes they're leading with the bass, sometimes it's a sax, sometimes it's the drums, sometimes it's the keyboards, but they all come together in this magical tapestry that creates the music. And so that's kind of how it works in life too. Sometimes we're having to lead with our finances, sometimes with our fitness and health, sometimes with our spiritual connectivity, sometimes with our relationships. And the key is to never totally neglect any of the five, what I call the five pillars, because when you do that, that's when you break.
100%. And I think while we may have, destroyed some visions of, work and what that looks like for an entrepreneur, I think at the same time, we brought a dose of reality and probably some relief so that some people can stop feeling guilty for some of the time that they are spending within their business. Now, you mentioned before that with all of the turmoil, with all the statistics that you have mentioned, with all of the knowledge that we have access to, at our fingertips on our devices, etc., it requires a different type of entrepreneur, a different type of leader in today's marketplace to make that happen. What is this type of leader that you speak of?
Well, first and foremost, I'll give you three qualities, and there's actually more than that. These are going to be real broad. But the first one is that, and I've already kind of alluded to the fact that I work out every single day. The entrepreneurs and the leaders that I coach and consult want to tell me consistently they don't have time to work out. And my response is, you don't have time not to. And you need to reframe your workout, and you need to put it on your calendar like you put a meeting on your calendar. Right? You need to schedule it just like it's a meeting, and it's sacred, and you're going to show up, because you're going to have a tremendous amount of energy if you're going to even scratch the surface of your, powerful transforming purpose, your big idea, your big vision. And if you don't have a big idea and a big vision, then you're thinking too small. But most entrepreneurs do. And so it's going to take a tremendous amount of energy. And I guarantee your listener would have to agree with me. Well, the fact is, as I've already stated, 45% of the people surveyed say they're too exhausted to perform in their work. They don't have the energy. They're totally wiped out. And I hear this every single day. And so you've got to find a way. This is quality number one, not just to work out, but how to be healthy and how to live a long time. Because if you want to accomplish big, bold ideas, it takes a long time to do that. I mean, it takes 30, 40 years to grow a mighty oak tree. If you're growing weeds, that can be done, very quickly. But if you're going after a mighty oak, you got to sustain for 30, 40 years. And so that means your diet, your mental health, your mental toughness, your emotional strength, your physical strength, as well as your power. All of those kinds of things are imperative. And so, what I tell entrepreneurs is that working out is not a luxury. Eating right is not a luxury. It's part of your job, period. And if you don't see it that way, then you need to see it differently because I'll give you a quick story. I met with a highly successful investment guy in Manhattan a couple years ago. And we met in this little bar in Manhattan, not my choice of first meetings, but that's where he wanted to meet at happy hour. So, okay. And we're talking, and he's obviously overweight. And we're talking about what he wants to achieve in life. And I said to him, how often do you work out? He goes, well, I don't have time to work out. I mean, I can't tell you, Jay, how many times I've heard this. I don't have time to work out. But what I do is I walk from the subway to my office every morning. I said, well, with all due respect, that's not enough. Yeah, I know, James, but I'll get to that. Well, fast forward, a year and a half later, he has a heart attack. All right. And he's knocked out. So here's, and God bless him, but here's the point. And this happens all the time. If you don't take care of yourself, life will make you take care of yourself. So now he's had a heart attack and he's out of work for 90 days or more because he wouldn't take the time to go work out and eat healthily, for an hour a day. So, hopefully that makes the point, but we've got to do that. That's quality number one. In a disruptive, Mach 10 world, we as entrepreneurs and leaders of our own life and our businesses have to make time to be healthy and figure out how we can live a long, long time. I mean, modern medicine, Jay, tells us we can go to at least 125. In fact, what the latest research is telling us is that for every year you live healthfully, Jay, science is giving you the opportunity to live another year healthfully. So at some point, and you're probably aware, Google and many others are putting, millions, if not billions of dollars into immortality research and life longevity and all these things. I mean, we can 3D print. If we can't do it yet, we're pretty damn close to being able to 3D print a liver.
Oh, right.
And replace it. Well, it's just like your automobile. I had a 2008 Range Rover for a long time, and it was impeccable. It was beautiful, and I kept, I keep really good care of my cars, and I just, when someone would break, I just put a new part on it, and I didn't care. People say, why don't you trade that in? Because I like it, and it works, and it runs. And I said to my mechanic, I go, how long will this thing go? And he goes, as long as you keep putting new parts on it, it'll go forever. Well, he was wrong because Rover got smart and stopped selling parts for it. So, if they hadn't have done that, I would still have it. But now I had to get a newer one, and I'll do the same thing with that too. Just keep putting new parts on it. It'll go forever. And so that's number one. I'll stop there and see if you want to expand on any of that.
Well, what's interesting to me is I myself and I know in my own personal experience, there was that, I don't know when it happened or whatnot, but it just suddenly, simple things. And I just want to make it tangible for everyone to understand some of what you're saying. It's not that it's not possible for you. It's just that we're not thinking that way. I mean, it can be simple things like, you know what, drink more water, go to sleep.
Yeah.
At an appropriate time. Figure out how much sleep your body actually requires to function well, and track that, monitor that. Those are things that I do today in a more passive sense. But there was a time where it was like I have to consciously remember to do some of these things because I performed better. But living longer is kind of a good thing too.
Well, and you'll perform even better when you do these things right. And a couple of things, what we now know in neuroscience is that the neural cocktails you get, also known as neurotransmitters, which I'm sure your listeners have heard of, things like dopamine and serotonin, the neural cocktail you'll get from a good weightlifting workout is worth its weight in gold. I mean, you'll come back, I have a very strict regimen that I follow. And if you study, the greatest achievers from Warren Buffett to Steve Jobs to Elon Musk, I mean, the names are endless. And artists too, like Picasso and Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, all these ultimate elite performers have rituals, and they have a very strict schedule that they go by. And that's how I run my life too. And so, for me, nothing interrupts my morning routine, with very few exceptions, except for your show.
Okay.
Because you and I are talking at 9:30 in the morning, my time, and normally I don't take any calls before 11 a.m. because I get up at 3:45 every day, and I have a very strict routine of things that I go through in the morning, and I call that my prime objective. And my prime objective is to take care of me first. And then I've got that all out of the way. And now by noon, when I get up at 3:45, you think about this, by noon, I've already been at it for almost a full work day for some people on payroll.
Right.
And I only need, you mentioned, hours of sleep. I only need 6 hours of sleep.
I'm 6.5. That's funny. It's literally 6.5 for me.
Yeah.
A minute less feels like, man, I missed it.
Yeah. Well, even the National Sleep Foundation can't tell us how much we need. They say, well, children and puppies need more. Well, neither one of us are children or puppies. So, their answer, and this is their job, the National Sleep Foundation, and how much sleep do we need? Well, it depends. I mean, frankly, the 8 hours a night is a socialized mindset that just came from, go back and trace where it came from. They said, all right, 24 hours in a day, we'll give you 8 hours to work and 8 hours to sleep and 8 hours to do whatever the hell else. Most people scroll through Facebook, but
hey, don't be beating up on Facebook. It's how we find people to listen to the show, man.
No, there's value in Facebook, but the fact is that what the research tells us is that the average individual spends 50% of his or her day in distraction right now. And they wonder, and then you sleep 33% of your life away. If you sleep 8 hours a night, you sleep 33% of your life away. And then you spend 50% of your waking hours in distraction. You wonder why most people don't even scratch their potential. And so the thing about sleep is that it's not the quantity of sleep, it's the quality of sleep. Most of us don't get good quality sleep, and there's a whole host of reasons for that too, like caffeine after 2 p.m., which has a 6-hour residual in the body. going to bed after 11 p.m. There's a cortisol spike that happens at 11 p.m., which messes up your deep sleep. Certainly alcohol in the evening. People say, I want a nightcap. Well, alcohol does not make you sleep. In wine, I love red wine occasionally, and it makes you kind of sleepy, but it doesn't give you deep sleep. And so, I don't know how the hell I got off on these tangents. I can go on forever, Jay.
Well, what it comes down to is that when we're trying to become a different leader, I mean, there are different strategies that are required because, all right, because we're talking about leadership, and one of the number one things that I hope every entrepreneur is picking up from what you're saying right now is the number one commodity is attention. Therefore,
Yes.
the number one enemy is distraction, and putting yourself in the position to be able to not only just physically but mentally be able to have sustained concentration on any topic, let alone what you're trying to actually get done. You got to prepare for that just as much as any other athlete does to play the game. That's really what you're saying.
You do, and there's a lot of research to back this up. The author Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who actually is a professor of psychology and business, wrote the book Flow, and maybe you've heard of that. But the flow state is something you have to get into for elite performance, ultimate performance, and the flow state is zero interruptions. And so going back to why I get up at 3:45, because I start at 4 and I want that 15-minute, little extra to get geared up and hit my 4 o'clock and do this and this and this and this. I write my new book, The Business of Redemption. You mentioned it is coming out in early next year, and I write in the mornings. I'm uninterrupted because the early mornings are my favorite part of the day because very few people are going to get up that early.
Right.
So there's quiet and there's solitude and there's not a lot of disruption and chaos even in the environment with traffic or anything else. And so my objective is from 4 a.m. to noon to get more accomplished than most people do in a couple of days. and I can do that. My workouts are in the morning too. By 6 o'clock, 6:30 to the latest, I'm heading to the gym every day, except for today. And this is where I alluded to this a moment ago. Today I got up at 2:45 because I, had the unique opportunity to be on the Jay Massey show at 9:30. So I wanted to get all my prime objective, my meditation, my mindfulness, my yoga, my workout, all those things done. So now I'm fully attentive with you, and the rest of my day I can crank, and I'm taken care of. And I've already been to the gym, and my neuro cocktails are going nuts, and that's probably why we're firing off here in this conversation, because it will make you more creative, innovative, excitable, passionate, all those kinds of things.
Well, and what I like about this is you're describing what many other guests have described, but you're doing it in a completely different fashion. And it's not me saying it again because they've heard it from me, but it's different when it comes from yet another person because it's just the way it is. Now, there is one thing, though, that I would love to hear in your words. Because when it comes to this self-awareness and self-care regimen in your morning routines and etc., there is the possibility of someone feeling either guilty and or selfish for doing these things. Shouldn't I be investing more time? I mean, that's time I should be spending in my business. If I'm going to get up that early, etc., 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 shouldn't I be doing that, James? What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say get over it.
Yes.
And no, in all seriousness, though, if you are doing things that are going to make you more efficient and effective, which all the things I'm talking about are proven to make you more efficient and effective, then it's kind of like I say to some of my clients. they're like, all right, I want to hire you as a coach, James, as a personal coach, leadership, performance, etc. How much time do I get to talk to you every month? I said, what does it matter? It's not about time, it's about results. If
Oh,
I if I can get you the results in 5 minutes, do you have to have 5 hours?
right.
And so that's what Buffett taught me years ago. He said always look at the value versus the price. And so the value of these things we're talking about is far beyond the price of the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever it is you're investing. You're making an investment, and an investment gives you an ROI. I mean, let's talk entrepreneurial language here. When you're making an investment, you get a return.
Yep.
You're not spending your time.
Nope.
Expenditures, time's gone. You spend your time, it's gone. And that's what amateurs do. They scroll through Facebook all day long, or they just surf the internet, or they daydream, or they don't do anything that's productive. And so what leaders and professionals do is they invest their time, their energy, their money. And so that's would be the reframe that I'd encourage your listeners to think about is, okay, if I can get 4 hours of productivity out of taking an hour and a half for me, then isn't that a good ROI?
And I'm laughing internally, partially because there's a coach I hired last year to assist me. I've been recently because of my son. I went and got tested for ADHD, and it turns out I'm autistic too. So learning to adapt those things. But when I hired him, he was like, okay, cool. He was really focused on the amount of time. But when we've had, it was in our first couple of sessions where it was something he said that was within the first 15 minutes of the call. And I was like, you know what? I got it. I'm good. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm done. We don't need to talk anymore today. He did not. So now he's used to it, but he was like, but you have 45 minutes left. I'm like, I don't need them. I got what I need for now. I'm going to go do that. I'll be back, and it's been funny, but that's the way that I operate, to the point to where I go through these exercises in some of our workshops to help people measure their income on a per minute basis. Because when you get it down to a per minute basis, you're thinking about everything you do completely differently. And man, I hate that we have something of a time limit today, because I want to keep talking to you right now. But I know that there's a number of people who have listened this far and they want to find out more. And so what's going to be the best way for them to catch up with you, after this?
Well, the best way is my website, which is just James Ray. We dropped the Arthur for the website. It's just JamesRay.com. And, we've got a whole host of opportunities there. We have a free coaching session that we offer. We have a free downloadable ebook that I've written called How to Conquer versus Quit, alluding to that goes through a lot of the things we talked to today with self-awareness and the fact that I was completely hit by a tsunami in 2009, and how did I get through it? And I talk about the qualities of doing that, and that's free on the site. There's a lot of things there if they want to poke around. And then, of course, I'm all over social media, official James Arthur Ray on Facebook, and I'm not anti-Facebook. I'm anti-wasting of time, by the way. I just want to go on record because it is a valuable tool used correctly. On Twitter, it's James at James A. Ray. I'm on Instagram, James Arthur Ray. So, yeah, I mean, the website would be the greatest place to go, and you can look at some of the upcoming events that we have scheduled for this year, where you could come and experience some of these things live. And I'd love to be able to help and support anyone.
Got it. Now, as we wind down, I have a final question for you, because I'm kind of curious to hear your answer. So there's a person or two who's listening who they started this particular episode in one place, but now they're finishing in another. They're at reaching what I like to call that precipice of a decision. They're going, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. I can make my business happen. I can set time. You're telling me I got to set time for myself? That's what I've got to do to transform and become something different, bigger, better, better for my business. I can do this. I can make this happen. Now, you know, like I know, James, that when we reach these points, we often have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice, and it's a voice that reminds us of how it didn't work last time and why it won't work this time. And who are you to think you're going to do what for who? Man, you just better go right back to sleep. It's too early to get up that early. Don't even bother. Now, some people, they're also related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. They're going to follow through. They're going to do exactly what you say. And they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
Well, it's a really good question, because what I continually tell my clients is you never leave the site of setting any kind of intention or goal without taking some type of action within the next 24 hours or less. So one thing, an action could be that you sit down and you design your day. You know, I work, when clients I work with, I help them design what I call the master protocol. And the master protocol is where you really design your day to the granular level. Now, a lot of people who are creatives go, "Oh, there's no way in hell I'm going to do that. I'm too free-spirited." Let me promise you, I'm a creative too. And when you learn to structure your day accordingly, you have much more creative time and much more free time and much less guilt.
Yep.
And a lot more energy, because you're not expending energy worrying all the time about the things that aren't done. So, you know, that would be an encouragement is to sit down and say, look, I'll give you one of mine, Jay. I refuse to look at my phone until no earlier than 6:30 in the morning. I get up at 3:45. I refuse to look at my phone, because I know if I look at my phone, there's going to be emails there. There's going to be, you know, social media there. There's going to be PMs there, all this stuff. Right. And all of a sudden I'm just checking a quick one. And pretty soon, 2 hours later, I'm like, oh man, you know, where'd the time go? So I schedule things in blocks. Like my emails get checked for the first time at 6:30. I've been up since 3:45. That's my time to check email. And I also have 2 email boxes. So one of them is only for the really important items, and those go to people that I need to respond to right away. The other one goes to everyone else and everything else.
Yep.
So I know if they're in this A box, if you will, that's the most critical things I'm going to look at. And there's relatively few emails in there, because I don't give it out very often. So design your day that way. I eat at the same time every day. I pretty much have a routine every day. And if you look at, again, the research, Habits of High Achievement is a really great book. The author's name is slipping me right now. But The Structure of Genius is another great book about all these individuals, and that's how they live their life, whether they're an athlete or they're a top achieving entrepreneur. So that would be the first, is to design that thing within the next 24 hours or less, and then begin to implement.
Love it. I love the practical nature of it, because that's something everyone can do today. And I definitely appreciate your journey, the fact that you've not only gone through it, but that you're willing to share about it so freely, and to make sure that others know, you know, simple distinctions, but in with terms like balance and knowing that, you know what, that there's a way to make what you want happen regardless of the size of the dream. And let me be the first to say thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Keep doing great work, Jay, and I really appreciate you having me on. Hope we'll get to talk again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means get over to jamesray.com, because you know, like I know, that you heard a lot today that you're like, man, that was on my I should do that list. And now it's time to move it to the done list. Okay, get it done. When? Now. Why? Because you only have now a clock and you know this. So let's make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.